On Thursday, Royal Never Give Up beat TSM. On Friday, TSM beat Samsung. So naturally, Royal are better than Samsung, right? If you look at the Twitter poll that I ran earlier today and that's still going on, a lot of people think that's true. Not necessarily that they reasoned it out in that order, but that's what they believe. In my opinion, it's not that simple. Everyone's on the Royal hype train since they're 2-0 and they crushed Splice so dominantly. But with the stylistic matchup between Royal and Samsung, it's actually a really interesting match, and it could go either way for different reasons. So let's talk about a couple of key win conditions for each team going into tonight's game. First of all, for Royal, something that I want to see from them is I want to see them attack the top lane. This might seem a little counterintuitive because Royal usually play more around Uzi in the bot lane, with Mata being able to get out, and hit the bottom side of the map, whether that's mid or bottom, and the bottom side of the jungle. It's easier for him to roam into. Uzi's such a dominant laner; they get to use that strength very well, and so there's a lot of good reasons why Royal normally plays around the bot side of the map. In my opinion, the top side of the map is the smarter target this game. For one thing, it's a bit of a curveball, which might be good because for sure that Samsung has been scouting Royal and looking for the way they normally play. And so mixing it up a little bit might be helpful. For another thing, attacking the teleport on Samsung, so attacking Kuve in the top lane where the teleport normally is, that makes it harder for Samsung to play reactively and collapse onto ganks. If you gank the bottom lane, Samsung is able to bring Kuve down with his teleport, try to get an outman situation and turn the play around. If you attack the teleport, then they already have to have the roam in motion before the play starts if they're going to counter it. So Ambition already needs to be up there, or Core JJ, who's playing this game, already needs to be on the move, or perhaps Crown already needs to be roaming, and that's not usually one of his strengths, is roaming out of lane. So I would like to see them attack the top lane, which is going to be an easier target for them, I think a more surprising target, and they can play through Looper, who, as a side note to this, there have been, some carry tops in the meta, Cannon, Rumble, things like this, and you can get them snowballing. So I think that would be a smart plan. Also, another note on that, Kuve often likes to look for solo kills in the lane, so sometimes he pushes up a little bit too far, makes himself a little bit vulnerable while he's looking aggressive, and maybe you're able to exploit that with a good gank timing. Something else for Royal, I want to see them stay disciplined. They did show really good patience against TSM. They didn't overreach. They didn't expose themselves. TSM were playing with a lead for a long time, a small lead. So if Royal had kind of opened themselves up to a big vulnerability, TSM might have been able to take that and blow up the lead that they needed with more of a snowball. So I did like the patience Royal showed in that game. Against Splice, Royal didn't need to show any patience at all. They were so far ahead the entire game, pretty much from the very start, that they didn't need to think twice about anything. They just rolled over any play they wanted. Everything worked because their lead just grew and grew and grew. So I think that game isn't really indicative of the way we need to see Royal play. It's more about how they played against TSM. So that's encouraging. I want to see them maintain that kind of discipline. In the bottom lane, I think Uzi and Mata are going to need to show a lot more respect in lane against Ruler and Core JJ than they showed against Kabi and Mickey X. They played very aggro and they tried to get the kills because it seemed to me like they knew and they felt that they were just so much better. And if we go for this hardcore 2v2 trade, we're going to come out ahead. That might not work out against Ruler and Core JJ. So I want to make sure that they maintain their respect level there. And as part of staying disciplined, I think Royal also need to play within their vision. So there was a lot of discussion about TSM's vision game and Royal, placing a lot more pink wards than TSM. But actually Royal placed fewer wards overall than TSM did. So Royal's vision isn't always, all over the map. It's usually pretty good in terms of being intentional. They're covering a certain part. Often they're covering Uzi so that he can shove or things like this. So they need to continue being intentional with their vision output and play within that information. Don't ward up this area and then, not use that information correctly when you're going to another part of the map, or, play within what you do know and what you don't. So overall, I think Royal do have the right tools to win. They know how to dominate early. They know how to team fight if it comes to that. They can, work as five and all go in and make a team fight happen. So they just need to make sure that they don't become their own worst enemy by being too telegraphed with their plays or lacking discipline. On Samsung's side, I want to see Crown get his feet moving. This is something that I criticized him for before in my general Group D preview video. I said, Crown has some issues with not being a great roamer. I said that in the gauntlet he started to turn this on a little bit more and was trying to be a more active roamer, and that was really good to see. But haven't seen that from him at the tournament here so far. He's played Victor, he's played Varus, two of these, stand in mid lane and wave clear, don't really get out of lane too much kind of champions. But I think you can still get out of lane with those types of champions, or you could draft something that's more comfortable getting out of lane. And I do want to see him be a little quicker to step out of his lane and be willing to follow Xiaohu if he goes looking for something, or even Crown can be proactive and look for a play himself if the right situation is there. So I do think that if Crown is able to do this, and even if he's not, even if he plays exactly like he has been so far, this is a better matchup for him. I think Bjergsen exposed Crown with his better ability to get onto the map and work with his jungler. But Crown's natural playstyle is a little better suited for facing Royal, especially if he can add this part of his game that he still needs to keep working on. So whether that is sticking with the Victor and the Varus and that type of champion some more, or whether that's bringing in more of a roamer, a Lissandra, or whatever it is that we haven't seen too much of, but that style of a champion. Either way, he needs to just keep his feet moving. I also want to see Samsung draft some disengage tools. They could go for Tom Kench, they could go for Braum in support, something like that for Core JJ. He's definitely comfortable playing Tom Kench. He's played Braum. Mostly, what he played the most this summer was Bard. Bard can work. I would prefer to go for something like the Tom Kench, but it'll depend how the rest of the draft plays out, of course. Skarner may be an option. Ambition has played it once in summer in the LCK, and they won. It was a 29-minute game. He had 4 kills, 0 deaths, 3 assists. So he knows how to play the Skarner, and he was even doing it before it became the new world's hotness. That it's not that it's come out that much, but it's been a fun one to see. So some champions like this, where they can receive Royal engages and turn them around, whether that's just to deny the fight from happening at all, or whether that's to take the play and counterpunch to win a fight, and to continue a fight in a more favorable situation. So they need the right tools to do this, because this is a style of play that Samsung is very good at: stalling, disengaging, counterpunching, and they just need to, I think, play within their comfort. Let's not try to shift their play style completely and do something that they aren't really used to, and that's completely different for them. They don't need to reinvent themselves to beat Royal. Overall, I think Samsung should be able to play within their comfort zone. They're not a bad early game team. They're not going to get rolled over as long as they play to their own level. They don't win through the early game, but they hold their own. They had a slightly above average early game rating in LCK this summer, for example. So for Samsung, it'll just come down to playing within their strengths, making sure that Crown is doing what he needs to do, and just executing cleanly and patiently. My prediction for this, I think that Samsung have the natural tools to counter Royal's biggest strengths. I think Crown matches up much better against Xiaohu than against Bjergsen. And I still have some lingering question marks around Royal and the efficiency of their aggression. Obviously, we know that they can make a lot of plays. They keep throwing punches, and a lot of those plays seem to work because of Mata being such a good playmaker and the rest of the team being so good at playing aggressive. But I still have some questions about how efficient they are in turning that aggression into objectives, which is also something that in my Group D preview I criticized them for. So I've seen still some of that, that they aren't necessarily investing in the towers as well as they could be. So I'm expecting to see a longer game. I think Samsung will win it. I think it will be close, and it's not going to be like Samsung win from the start and roll it out the entire way, but that's how I'm predicting it. So thanks for watching, and enjoy the games.